Hey guys, and welcome back to this week's episode of The Suited Shootist. And so what I'm going to be going over in this video are some of the social considerations that we should all be paying attention to, especially right now, just with the kind of high tension social climate that we're existing in, and some of the pitfalls that exist that I see people getting caught up in that it would make more sense for us to try and avoid, especially if we are kind of in that safety mindset. So usually in these videos, people are asking you to either like or subscribe. It's going to be amazingly helpful if you do both of those things. I would really appreciate it though. I'm going to ask you, watch the video all the way through. And even if you don't have an opinion on the content, leave your feedback below, because I'm still working on this. So anything that I can do better, I want to know about it. So please let me know. So, like I was saying, I think that this is really a relevant topic because given the fact that everybody is still locked up at home for the most part, they're getting a lot of their interpersonal interaction on social media, and that has the ability to generate some bad habits that then seem to be translating into face-to-face interactions and causing some problems that don't necessarily need to be there. I'm not going to comment on a specific event, but I'm going to kind of reference some scenarios that should sound familiar. The reality is that, and this is something that I talked about previously, as armed citizens, when we go about our lives, every interpersonal interaction that we have, if it goes badly, is a potential gunfight because you brought a gun. So that needs to be forefront in your mind. We see a lot of folks, again, everybody's cooped up, everybody's spending a lot of time online, and so there's this sharing of opinions that can very readily degrade into just retreating to the respective corners and kind of screeching at each other with tribal talking points, which isn't productive. If that's what you want to do in your spare time, okay, cool. It's not my speed. I don't see it as particularly productive, but hey, you do you. The challenge is that when that dynamic spills over into face-to-face confrontation, there's a potential for a lot more consequence. Regardless of what your opinions are on any of the hot button social topics, whether it be law enforcement reform, whether it be Black Lives Matter, whether it be your opinions on wearing a mask in public, take your pick. The reality is that regardless of what time we're living in, there's always going to be a handful of contentious hot button issues that everybody wants to jump in and kind of give their 2 cents on. When it's done correctly, you can have a productive, thoughtful exchange between disagreeing viewpoints. I forget where I heard it, but there's a great expression where there's a difference between disagreeing and being disagreeable. And I think that's really huge, because I have very close friends of mine who, on paper, we shouldn't even like each other because our experiences, our backgrounds, our philosophies are so dramatically different on a few key subjects. But I actually know who these people are as individuals. We've connected. We have found what our common ground is, and there is a mutual respect there, so that way, if we do decide to debate a given topic, we understand that the other one is coming from a position of good faith. Well, we see a lot these days where somebody is willing to insert themselves into a situation that they weren't even necessarily involved in initially, and just kind of poke the bear. They will say something counter to whatever is being put at them, and not in a way that really is there to spark debate. It's there just to basically flex on the opposition and say, well, okay, but you're wrong and you're dumb. Sometimes that just escalates to a stupid little viral video and we all get to laugh at how foolish these people look. Worst case scenario, it ends up on the news because somebody ended up in the hospital or somebody ended up in the ground. And I really feel that if you go through life carrying a firearm specifically, but honestly, if you just want to be a decent person in general, why initiate unnecessary conflict? I don't get it. There's no benefit to it, because even if you win, all the other parties involved probably still think you're an asshole. And this is coming from a place of real expertise, because I used to be that guy. I would literally just argue anything at the drop of a hat, and I would be that person that would just bury the opposition in facts and information to just build my little castle of rightness. And all it really did was waste emotional energy on my part. I never convinced anybody, even though from an academic standpoint, if we were talking about a debate team where both arguments were being judged by a third party, I probably would have won. All it succeeded in doing was pissing off somebody else and wasting my time and energy. So there's no upside there. If you are going to engage in these conversations, and I think they should be had, number one, do it with people you know. Because again, there's already that personal connection, and you're going to be able to establish some pre-existing common ground and some mutual respect and basis of a good, coming from a place of good faith. Don't argue with strangers. You're wasting your time, and all I've seen it succeed in doing is further the divide. The other part of it is, when you're out in the world, especially if you're strapped, keep your opinions to your fucking self. Because you gotta sit back and ask yourself, is this worth a gunfight? Because it could absolutely go that way. You've heard me talk about the book before, but Varg Freeborn's Violence of Mind covers this pretty aggressively. If you're engaging with another person and you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know their background, you don't know their experience, you don't know what kind of day they're having, and just because it is beyond your thought that somebody would escalate to deadly force or escalate to a level that would require you to respond with deadly force over something trivial like a social slight, doesn't mean those people aren't out there, and they don't walk around with a warning label on. So just bear in mind that this is a very real risk. And the other part of it is, if you find yourself in one of those situations, from a legal standpoint, disclaimer, not a lawyer, but from the classes I've taken and the books I've read, my understanding is that if you initiate a confrontation that then escalates to deadly force, you can't claim self-defense because you started it. So just exercise a little emotional restraint, a little bit of social savvy, and if you are going to engage in those discussions, treat it like a sparring session. Understand that, yes, both sides are trying to win, but it's not going to be the national competition. Treat it like a practice session. Try and hone one aspect of your persuasive argument or of your verbal agility. And also just bear in mind, it's not necessarily personal. It might be something you feel deep in your core, but it's not necessarily a personal attack on you. So, like I said, I think that this climate is both a great opportunity to hone those verbal skills, but there's also a very high risk of unintentionally escalating something. So just be attentive, be careful. Hope everybody has a great week. And next week I will be posting up the video from the Carrie Davis Dark Angel medical class. I think you guys are going to get some great use out of that. And again, if you find the content useful, like and subscribe. And by all means, I want to hear your feedback down below. What do you like about these videos? Where do you think I've got some room for improvement? So I will catch everybody next week, and stay safe.